Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're talking to Melissa Stewart, the award-winning author of more than 150 books for children. Thanks for allowing us into your office, Melissa. Thanks for coming. I'm really excited to talk about my new book, Titanic. Great, let's get started. Why Titanic? What drew you to this topic? Actually, it was Becky Baines, my editor at National Geographic. She lured me in with the topic and then handed me off to the project editor, Laura Marsh. Lured you in? Usually I write about science, so the 100th anniversary of the Titanic sinking wasn't really on my radar. But when Becky mentioned it to me, I started to get curious. And when she said that National Geographic really wanted the book to focus on Bob Ballard's discovery in the 1980s and all the research that has gone on and all the exploration of the ship, I really wanted to do it. I was 100% on board. How did the structure for your book evolve? I had already written 3 or 4 other books for this series, the National Geographic Readers, so I knew quite a bit about the book going in. I knew it would have 1,000 words, I knew it would have about 8 or 10 different sections, I knew that it would have 4 or 5 weird facts, we're called weird but true. I knew that there would be a glossary, I knew that there would be some other kinds of sidebars that I would have to think up as I was going along. But what I did provide for the book is the overall structure. So I decided that I would begin with Bob Ballard's discovery, sort of bring the kids into a treasure hunt, because I thought that would be really appealing. And then I circled around and came back to those discoveries at the end. So what that allowed me to do was connect with today's readers in the beginning with the treasure hunt story, and then kind of just segue back in time and tell the story of the ship, why it was so important, tell what had happened during the voyage, talk about when it hit the iceberg, what that meant for the ship, to just sort of tell that story back from 100 years ago, and then come back to present day and talk about some of the artifacts that are down there and how they've been studied. What did you discover during your research that was interesting or surprising, and how did that shape your book? Really, the biggest surprise that I encountered was the idea that it was a series of events that led to the disaster, led to the tragedy, and that if just 1 or 2 of those things had changed, then the disaster wouldn't have happened. If the boat had been built properly, it wouldn't have sunk as quickly. They decided that they wanted to have more room on deck for the first-class passengers to walk around, to stroll around during the day. And what that meant is that there were fewer lifeboats, and that's one of the reasons that so many people drowned. The wireless operators were employed by the wireless company, not the shipping company. So their first duty was to the passengers, not to the ship. And that means that they were getting ice warnings all day, but not all of those messages made it to the bridge. And if they had, the captain might have made different decisions about when and how to change the course of the ship. I knew I couldn't get all this information into the book in the detail that I would have liked to, but what I was able to do is create a special feature, 10 Real Reasons for the Titanic Tragedy. That allowed me to summarize all the things that led up to the tragedy. Did anything else surprise you during the research process? Yes, but it wasn't any of the facts, it was the actual process. I'm so used to writing science books, and there's a particular way that you go about doing the research. You gather all the information you can, and then at the end of the process, I always contact the scientists that are doing the cutting-edge research to make sure I have the most up-to-date information. But with history, it's different. What's there is there, and if there's something that's missing from 100 years ago, there's really nothing you can do about that. And you can also get information from different points of view, and that can affect your narrative. How did you go about selecting the primary source documents and photos that appear in the book? I found so much great primary source material that I knew I had to do something special with it. So I created a sidebar called In His Own Words or In Her Own Words, and my goal was to really bring a variety of voices to the readers. When it came to photos, I was really lucky because I had the power and prestige of an organization like National Geographic behind me. Not only did they have one of the biggest and best photo archives in the world, they also had access to just about any image I could think of. So as I was doing my research and came across images that I liked, I would just take notes about where they had come from, and I turned that list over to my editor and the photos just magically appeared. It was really a wonderful experience. The sinking of the Titanic can be a difficult topic for children. How did you adjust some of the things that you learned to make it appropriate for young readers? The first adjustment I made was not to include jokes in this book. All the other books in this series have 5 or 6 of them, and I knew that just wouldn't be appropriate for this topic. But other than that, I really believe in telling children the truth, but also in meeting them where they are. So we included a whole section on the survivors, and in fact we did little mini bios of I think four of them, to sort of balance out a graph that we had that showed the numbers of all the people that died. So we told them the truth, but we also counterbalanced that with stories of people who survived and lived long and happy and productive lives. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today? Just that teachers might enjoy taking a look at my website. The URL is www.melissa-stewart.com, or you can just Google my name and you'll find a page full of teachers' guides and activity pages and other materials that you can use with your students. Thanks so much for your time, Melissa. We've learned a lot.